Hello and welcome back to Maths with Mitch. Today we are continuing to look at factorising quadratics in part 2 of the video, where we're looking at problems where the x squared coefficient is greater than 1. So let's get started straight away. So we're going to be looking at the problem 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. And again, we want to do the same as we did last time, get that into two brackets, factorise it, so that we can then use that for a range of different problems, finding roots for a start, but other applications as well. Now the complication we have this time is that we have a 3 as the coefficient here in front of the x squared term. So the inspection method we used last time is going to be slightly different because it won't work in the way we were doing it. We're still going to use the inspection method, but we're going to have an additional step that we're going to think of. We're going to do the same steps as we did before. We're going to think about what two numbers multiply together, and we're also going to think about what two numbers add together. I'm going to use those two numbers to then factorize our brackets. But if you were to times out the brackets and go the other way, the numbers that you get in here for the x terms are going to be dependent on this number and this number at the front of your x squared term. So we need to think about multiplying two numbers together in a different way. So this time, rather than just think about this number, we're going to do the coefficient of the x squared term, 3, and we're going to times it by the number of the term without an x. So we're going to say times minus 2, and that's going to give us minus 6. And it's this minus 6 that we're now going to use as the number that we have to multiply together to be able to split that x term. We're still going to be doing the same for the add, so we're still going to be thinking about this term here. So they're going to have to add together to make minus 5. But the difference is which number you're going to use for which to multiply together. Now again, we're going to do the inspection method. So by inspection or trial and error, we'll write it all out and then we can follow the steps. So let's think about which two numbers are times together to give minus 6. So minus 6, 1, minus 1 and 6, minus 2, 3, minus 3, 2. So there are numbers that times together. Remember, we're using integers in these. We're doing simple problems with integers. So which numbers times together to give minus 6, but we're looking also which add together to give minus 5. So if we look which give minus 5, that would be this here, minus 6 and 1. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 now is to separate them out, separate the x term using these numbers that you've just determined there. So we now have a minus 6x, we have a plus. We're going to leave the 1 in for the moment. You could of course write that as just plus x, and we've still got the minus 2. So that's now our equation in that mid step. Remember, when you're timesing the brackets out, you can do the mid step before you then collate the x terms. So we're just reversing that method. So now we want to think about factorizing common factors within these terms. So let's take the first two terms, the 3x squared here and the 6x. We want to get it so we have just an x in the bracket. So if we think about what we're taking out of this term, we're going to be taking out 3x. That'll leave us with a single x term. So if we take 3x out, we're then left with x. And then if we think here, if we divide this through by 3x, we'll be left with a minus 2. So we can see here that these two terms here is the same as this, but factorized into a bracket. And if we didn't do anything to this term, we can just write that out here. But what we can now think about is that if we draw a line down these two terms, we have an x minus 2 here. So can we look here and think, do we have a common factor here that we can pick x minus 2 out? Now it's quite easy to see in this example because you can see x minus 2 is clearly there. So we know we have a common factor. So if we were to think about the next step, what is the common factor of x minus 2? What can we bring out the front of a bracket and be left with x minus 2 in there? That would be plus 1. So we now have a common factor here, x minus 2. And if you think about what that would times by here, we have 3x and we have a plus 1. So we can put that in our other bracket. So there we are. That's taking a quadratic 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 and factorising it into two brackets using the inspection method. Very similar to how we previously done it, but remembering that in step 1 you have a minor change where you have to multiply the coefficient of the x squared term by the term, the coefficient without an x together, so you can determine how to split that x term. So let's think about another example. So we've got here 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. We're going to follow the same process. Remember, with a lot of mathematics, learn the process, follow it, practice it, and we can't go wrong. So step 1, we're going to be thinking about which two numbers multiply together so we can split that x term. So before we said we're going to use 2, so the coefficient of the x squared term, times that by minus 12. And that gives us minus 24. So minus 24 is the number that we're going to be using to see which numbers times together. In terms of the addition, we're going to be using this term in here, plus 5. So let's think about which numbers times together to give minus 24. We're going to have quite a few of them. Okay, I think that's all of them. So now we can think about what they are when they add. Now, of course, you can do this in your head quick, we'll just prove the point. So once we've considered what the answers are to all those, which of them add together to give minus 5, and that would be this. So step 2, we're going to split our x term, thinking about those two numbers there. So split the x term, so 2x squared. We're going to use the numbers we have here. And don't forget your x. That would be a bit foolish. We're definitely not going to get the right answer if we do that. So we've done that mid-step. We've now split the x term. So now we need to be taking a factor out. So the easiest method here is to, again, think about this term here. And you want to be left with something, with just x plus something or x minus something. So what do we need to take out to leave the x on its own? That would be 2x. And then we put our x in the bracket. Then think about 8x here. If we take 2x out the front, we're going to be left with a 4. And then we've got our two terms here. Follow the same step now. So we've got x plus 4. Will that factorize into minus 3x minus 12? Now this isn't as obvious as the last one, but it does if you think about it. So write out that first term here. And now if we think about, we want x plus 4 left in the bracket, we can think about what is going to be taken out the front to be able to give us that term. So if we wanted x on its own, which we do, here we have a minus 3x. So what would we have to take out the front of a bracket to get x on its own? That would be minus 3, remembering that this is a positive x, a badly drawn positive x. So we can think about minus 3, and does that work? So if we were to take minus 3 out of this term, minus 12 divided by minus 3 is a positive 4. So yes, it does. Once we take minus 3 out of the front of the bracket, we're then left with x plus 4. So that is all one term as our answer. We've now got x plus 4 as a common factor. So we can say x plus 4 in a bracket, and in the other bracket it'll be 2x minus 3. And again, that gives our answer for factorising into two brackets, the quadratic 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. Thanks everyone for watching. This has been Maths with Mitch with part 2 of Factorising Quadratics. I hope you enjoyed the video and that talked you through the inspection method, and you can go and apply that to lots of problems and solve them to your heart's content. If you like the content, please subscribe to the channel and join me next time for future videos.